Welcome to Podjunction, where business meets podcasting. Whether you're on a morning jog, driving to work, whipping up a meal, or just simply taking a minute for yourself, our weekly bite-sized episodes promise fresh insights from successful podcasters who have cracked the code of using podcasts to grow their business. So whether you're a podcasting newbie or a seasoned podcaster, this episode is for you.
Wow, very warm welcome to you. Welcome to this brand new episode of Podjunction. My name's Matt Edmundson. Next to me is Sadaf Beynon. We are here to talk about how to use podcasting to grow your business. That's the aim. That's the thinking. And it's fair to say, Sadaf, we're sat here mustering as much energy as we can. We went away for a staff. What would you call it? A staff retreat?
Yeah,
the
I think
staff
so.
retreat.
Yeah.
For the weekend, and this is the first day we're all back. Everyone is like,
Yeah, I've hit a wall now. Yeah.
So we all need a day or two to recover. Not that anything bad happened, but it was a good crack. But it was I think we all succumbed to something over that weekend, and so we're just all a bit kind of like, But welcome to you. It's great. It's good that you can join us. Glad that you're here. It's good to be back in the throw of things. You know, back to normal, as they say.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Have you smashed through that wall yet?
No. I have had some food to help me through it, but not quite there yet.
Yeah, it's fair to say we have a lot of food downstairs.
Yes, lots of surplus. Costco muffins and cookies.
We came back with a chunk of food. We're not going to lie. And it's fair to say also that you and I have been banned from doing the shopping.
Yes, we have. Which is okay, actually. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Sadaf and I went to Costco Thursday.
Yeah.
Time of recording this, it's a Tuesday, so it was 5 days ago. And we went to buy the food for the weekend, and we was like, let's get one of them, And I drive a van. I don't drive a car, I drive a van. I'm a bit of a van guy. And we filled the van basically with food. So it was...
we did. And we brought most of it back.
We did, but it was a good crack.
But no one starved.
That's true. We all ate very well. So, yes. Anyway, enough about our weekend. What are we doing today?
We have Lee Houghton back again from Prague.
The legend.
Yeah. What was it? What was his business problem solved? And sorry.
She really does care, Lee. Honest.
I do. Yeah. And he's talking about finding guests and maintaining relationship with them.
Okay, so without further ado, we're going to listen to Lee. If this is your first time with us, by the way we do this is we listen to a clip from an interview. Sadaf or I will interview a well-known podcaster about how they use podcasting to help grow their business. We play a clip from that interview, and then Sadaf and I will be back to chat about said clip. So without further ado, here is the quintessential Lee Houghton, who is an absolute legend. Here he is.
So, question about your guests then. How do you find the guests to come on your show, or do they find you now?
Yeah, so this is at the start. I picked people because 4 years ago it wasn't podcasting wasn't as big as it is now, and it continues to grow. So I found people that I was interested in via LinkedIn. So I just sent them a little message on LinkedIn. So that was predominantly where I find them. I would search for them on LinkedIn, connect with them, strike up a conversation, and I find that LinkedIn has been the place where I've found a lot of the people, a lot of the interesting people that I've wanted to speak to. And I also find that LinkedIn, people are more likely to strike up a conversation with you on LinkedIn than any other social media that I found based on the people that I'm searching for. So LinkedIn's been the door opener. The podcast has been kind of like the conversation starter, and then I've been able to continue the conversation on the pod. So that's been amazing. Some people now have started to reach out. So reaching out, so there's like a lot of podcast agencies now that they've got guests associated with them, and then they start to search. But I'm a little bit choosy with them, if I'm honest, because there's so many of them now, it's like people spamming me, and so now I don't just accept them. There's got to be a particular reason and a particular question that I want answering that then allows me to do that. And they make some really simple mistakes as well with when they're writing out to you. You can tell when they've copied and pasted your name or the podcast name into set text and stuff like that. So I ditch, no matter who the guest is, I ditch all those anyway, just because it's lazy. LinkedIn, previous people that I've had the opportunity to work with. So if I've been at an expo or I've been at a dinner or something, and there's been somebody I wanted to speak to, then I've struck a conversation there. Well, so LinkedIn, personal relationships, and then the odd person that writes to me who looks like they've got an interesting angle on a topic that I'm interested in as well. So I think podcasting is just growing. It's going massive. It's the last 4 years. It's more and more people have been doing it, and more people have been listening to it. So it's just relatively straightforward to get guests, to find guests.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's friction. It's a lot more frictionless as well, isn't it? Because it's like this. I'm in my house, and are you in your house, in your office? Right?
I'm in the shed at the bottom of my garden.
Very good. So with the lights off as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in my pants. No, I'm not.
So I think it's just a lot more frictionless to do this now. The technology is there just to make it easier.
Yeah.
And so it's just somebody finding an hour in the diary is having to travel somewhere to have a conversation and travel back. It's not many people said no to an interview or a conversation, and I've had the opportunity to speak with so many people.
Yeah, that's such a good point, and this is one of the reasons why I love podcasting, especially if you're in business or leadership. That if I approach someone on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, I do e-commerce coaching services or whatever," so what? I don't care. Leave me alone, right? I'm getting spammed by email. I'm getting spammed on LinkedIn. People are trying to cold call me. I just don't care. Whereas if I contact that same person and say, "Listen, I've got a podcast. I'd love for you to come on the podcast. I think you could offer some great value. What do you think?" 99 times out of 100, they're like, "I would love to come on the show," right? And then the doors open. And so, it's been incredible that sort of thing. Do you stay in touch with guests once you've done the show? How do you do that, or do you just kind of stay in touch with a select few that you really enjoyed or liked?
Yeah, so I'm rubbish at that. I need to get far better at it, and that's why I want to create more assets from the from the material that I've got, because that would give me an opportunity to reach out and share the value. Because what I found is everybody has a story, irrelevant of the position, irrelevant of the life, irrelevant of how they answer that question. Do you see yourself as successful? Success is individual, and I think a lot of the lessons that people have had to go through, there's a lot of value in sharing some of those things. So I'm not very good at keeping in touch with people. I need to keep in touch with people far better, especially because Chris's second lesson is make good friends.
Make good friends.
And I'm not doing that as well as I would like to. So in fact, that's something that I should be committing to do more. So next year for me, it will be trying to maintain better friendships and relationships with everybody that I come into contact with.
Very good.
Okay, kind of paused at the end there, didn't it? The video. So welcome back, Lee, talking about how he finds guests for his show, and also a little bit about follow-up. And so what are we talking about then off the back of that?
Well, what stood out to me listening to it was he started off in LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It was a manual process, wasn't it? Searching for them, connecting with them, having that conversation. And then when he moved on to the agency bit, where he was talking about, people contacting him, and you could tell it was a cut and paste job, and it just wasn't personal. It didn't feel like it was a mass produced email in some sense. And so I was actually thinking it works both ways, just as much as the guest wants to feel special and reached out to on a personal level on LinkedIn. We as podcasters want that as well.
Yeah, it's true, actually.
It's not, we just, the agencies are helpful, but at the same time, we don't want to be like, a cut and paste kind of mass produced email.
That's a very good point. So if your strategy is to reach out to podcasts and to get onto a podcast, how you do that, there's a real trade-off, isn't there, between how much time you invest in each individual podcast versus how much you just buy a mail list and, mail merge as much as you can. And I think it is a really interesting point. And agencies, that if you don't know, there are podcast agencies out there you can join, you can sign up to them. And if you need one, let us know, because we will recommend one to you. But there are agencies out there that you can join, and you pay them. The way it works is you pay them a fee, right?
Yeah.
For every appearance on a show that they get you. And that fee can range anything. We've seen fees from like $100 to, I was talking to a chap the other day on the e-commerce podcast. I say chap, I think there's a lady, but she paid $450 to appear for that appearance. So the agent that got her the appearance on our show, she paid $450 for. And obviously, I mean, the value of that is going to be dependent on you, your business, what it is you're trying to do. But it was interesting how he talked about this, didn't he, with Lee, with agencies, that when basically you're going to go to an agency's got thousands of podcasts on their books. Those podcasts, they don't know there is software out there which you can get access to, which will give you the name and email addresses of podcasts. So that's how they do it. If you want to appear on, I don't know, a knitting podcast, they will go and find all the people that have knitting podcasts using sort of industry databases on there. There's a couple of them now. And it will pull out the names and email addresses, and they'll contact them on your behalf, send them the podcast, the one sheet, and try and get you the appearances. They send you the invoice for every appearance they get you. In some respects, it's pretty easy work.
Yeah.
You just need a database and the ability to connect with people. But you could do it yourself. And like you say, the more personal you can make that, the better the chance you've got of getting on the show, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a good point, rather than just doing this the standard. I'm just going to send the same email to 1,000 people and mail merge a few things.
And I guess, like, if you look at our process as we go on, we want that guest to be invested in our business in some capacity.
Yeah.
So having that personal touch point right at the beginning helps all the subsequent ones too, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So the way we do it is we have a form, don't we, on the website?
Yeah.
Because we get approached by a lot of agencies for guest appearances on our show, and we just reply back to the same ones, unless we know them really well. But we just reply to them with the same response, which says, "It's great. Please put their information here on this website form." And we found actually just that very simple thing filters out a lot.
It does, yeah.
Because if we get, say, 100 emails, I don't know what the actual percentage is, but I'm gonna guess it's something like 50 or 60. Of those people we reply to will then go and do the form. 40 of them won't even be bothered.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it's too much like hard work.
Yeah.
They've got a list of other podcasts they can be on.
Yeah.
So then that filters out a lot of stuff for us, I think, just by having that form on the website. And so, yeah, it's an interesting one. It is an interesting idea that, that we've sort of come across there. But I think Lee's right. I think if you're getting podcast guests through agencies, if agencies are contacting you, and hey, listen, if they're not contacting you yet, they will contact you. You're right.
Yes, I'm back.
You're back. Still hitting that wall. The agencies will contact you if when your show starts to grow and when it starts to be a bit more consistent and your name starts to appear in the databases, basically. They will start to message you an email. So it does make getting guests easier, but the quality of the guest isn't always great from agencies, is probably fair to say.
That's right. And I think there is that point where you've been looking for guests and you're having to go out for them, and then suddenly they start pouring in. It's like, oh, this is great. It's made my job so much easier. But I think filtering through those guests is still really important.
Yeah, it is. And actually probably having quite a strict criteria because you do get sent some great people who will be great guests for your show, but you're also going to get sent some people who would not make a great guest for your show. Yeah. It's fair to say, right? And so, I mean, from my point of view, I never see this because you take care of it all. Yeah. You and the team, you kind of just, you get all the applications and I just talk to them. They're in the diary, which is a beautiful thing. So when agencies contact us, we send them to the form. Yeah. They fill out the form. If they don't fill out the form, we're not interested.
Yeah, because I think sometimes they're like, well, I've already done my outreach. I've already emailed you, and they'll probably move on to people who have picked up their email and run with it.
Yeah.
Whereas I've said, no, could you please go back to our website? That's where we start. And so maybe they'll circle back at a later time.
Yeah.
But not necessarily right away.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't like doing all that extra work.
Yeah.
Agencies. So what else do we look for in guests when they come through agencies? What are some of the other filters that we have?
I think it depends, of course, on the podcast in some ways. But I think also it was Marcia who said, make sure they can talk. They know how to talk. That's how she put it. But I think it's, for me, it's making sure that they're going to be able to hit it off with you as the host.
Yeah.
So that they're able to connect with you and have fun, and because you're quite relaxed in your approach.
Yeah, usually.
Yeah, and so I think for them to be able to, be okay with that and just be okay with, because with you, you'll ask a question, they'll answer, and you'll just keep digging until you're satisfied, and then you'll move on to the next thing. Whereas some people come with the mindset that it's going to be these 5 questions, and then that's the end. So they just need to be aware that, the format's a bit different.
Yeah.
It's more of a conversation, less of an interview.
Yeah, top tips there. Now, if you are looking for guests, so the way Lee does this and still does this, did this and still does this, is similar to what we do. For example, with Push, is you can find people on LinkedIn. If obviously LinkedIn makes sense if you're wanting to talk to people involved in business or leadership or something like that. If you can find your guests on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a great platform for getting guests because it's easy to connect, isn't it? It's easy to search, it's easy to filter, and it's easy to find people that that meet your guest criteria on LinkedIn. And actually, there's also a good chance they've probably been on podcasts before if they're on LinkedIn. Not necessarily all of them, obviously, but it is I think LinkedIn's a really interesting platform.
Yeah, and I think to what you're saying, it works the other way again, in that they can check you out.
Yeah.
And like before they choose to respond even.
Yeah, that's true. So actually, that's a good point. If you're going to do a LinkedIn outreach strategy, which I think you probably would want to if you want some really good guests, make sure your bio page or about us page or whatever they call it on LinkedIn is up to date and includes the podcast and links to the podcast and, those kind of things. Well, I was thinking it through actually as I'm saying this. We should, the way we get it working is when guests have been on the show, there's a couple of things we ask them, one of which is review, right?
Yeah,
so
we
can
do.
You give us a review. And so we got some great reviews from past guests, which we should probably put on our LinkedIn page.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got them on the website, some of them, but LinkedIn would be good.
Yeah, it would make a little bit more sense, wouldn't it? So we could do that. But yeah, I think make sure obviously your LinkedIn page is up to date. So you're going to invite people to come on your podcast. The first thing they're going to do is click on your profile. So your profile needs to help them say yes. So yeah, one of the things I didn't ask Lee was actually how he deals with people that say yes. He said he kicks off sort of conversations on LinkedIn. It's easy to have a conversation going back and forth. And so I guess he just then sends them a link to sort of book a recording slot, which is definitely one. So you need to understand what's going to happen if someone says yes.
Yeah,
right?
have a process for that.
A process. Have a process or a process. Yes. Get your water. Get your process up and running. And just think that through. Just have a really strong idea of what it is you want to do when someone says yes. You're going to send them to a website. You're going to have them fill out a web form. Or you're just going to do everything through LinkedIn messages. Could you create some templates? And then obviously using something like, what do we use? Zcal. Is that right? Zcal. To create like recording links. So it's like, here, just go choose a recording slot that works well for you. We use something called Zcal, zcal.co.
Yeah.
I think that's right. It's like Calendly, but free.
Yeah.
Which is...
Yeah, we like that.
We like it. Free works. Although they've now got a paid version, I saw.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. We're still on the free. But there's all kinds of platforms. There's Calendly, there's Zcal. You can even do it direct with Google. Like I was on Norm's podcast the other day. And in fact, he's just gone and invited me on. He's got loads of podcasts. Norm Farrar. He's been on. Has he been on this show?
No, but I've asked him to come.
Okay, yeah, because I did mention it to him. I've been on his podcast. He's got more podcasts than I have, I think. But he uses Google.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Okay.
You just go to Google and book straight into the diary that way.
Okay.
But it just makes it easier. So have a simple process, right? That process needs to include, the ability to book a pre-call. If you're going to do a pre-call, you need to book the pre-call. If you're not going to do a pre-call, you obviously need to get them a whole bunch of information ahead of time on what the podcast is going to be like and what to expect. And that's probably going to be about it, really. I can't think of anything else. I mean, you will know more than me.
Yeah, no, that's about it.
Yeah. Keep it simple. Don't make it complicated. Keep it simple. Now, if you go to our website and you fill out the web form, it's not necessarily as simple. We ask a whole bunch of questions on that. But that was very intentional, right?
Yeah, that's intentional. One, to filter people out, and two, it helps our processes, doesn't it? Like, it gives us all the information we need. Yeah,
because we ask for things like headshots, social media links, bio, those kind of things, which we like to get from people. So again, depending on your podcast, but LinkedIn is definitely a good place to go. Now, if your guests aren't hanging out on LinkedIn, what social media platform do they hang out on? And how can you find them and reach them on that social media platform? I do have people reach out to me on Instagram, for example, but the way Instagram handles messages, and because I'm such a dunce, I suppose, when it comes to checking my Instagram messages, you can go 3 or 4 weeks before I even see that, you know, and because it puts it in a different tab. So I don't think Instagram is great. Facebook for me is even worse. I was on Facebook the other day and said, we've got a message. Like, oh, okay, that was from 2 months ago. So I think there are things like that to bear in mind, which is where I think LinkedIn works quite well. Or you can try and get their email. Would be if you've got their email, obviously you can get hold of them directly that way. But I think if you're doing your first 20 episodes, you probably know most of the people that you could get on the show anyway. They're going to be in your CRM, your contact, your database, whatever you use. You're probably going to have a phone number or an email, so you can just contact them directly. But when it's cold outreach, LinkedIn is a great platform.
Yeah, it is. And I remember using LinkedIn back earlier in our e-commerce
Back in the day.
Back in the day, yeah.
Is that what you're going to say? I used LinkedIn back in the day.
Moved on now.
When I was a lad, we used LinkedIn.
But yeah, that is something I did ask for. Like, if they told them a bit about it, if they were interested, if they were, then could I please have your email address? And then everything else was through email. The communication. Then I was done with LinkedIn then at that point. Yeah,
that's a very good point. Actually, get their email address as soon as you can. Start that conversation on email. Someone said to me the other day, which I thought was a really interesting comment. They said to me that LinkedIn is the one platform Microsoft has not screwed up yet. I think they were. Yeah, it sounds fair. They were harboring issues regarding Teams. Which we all have, to be fair.
Scarred Microsoft since COVID.
Teams, scars. It's been scarred by Microsoft Teams. So apparently they screwed up Skype. They've done Teams screwed that up. But LinkedIn, as things currently stand, is not too bad. So far. Yeah. So far. Great tips from Lee there in terms of finding people on LinkedIn and just starting conversations with them. Don't be afraid to do it. I think sometimes we overanalyze it, don't we? Or overthink it. And so, what if? What if they hate me? What if they report me for spamming? And it's like, no, don't. Just get on with it.
They can say no. That's about it. And then
just be polite.
Yeah.
And if they say, just leave me alone, just leave them alone. Don't be an asshole about it. But I think if you're polite with people, the thing that I've found actually when doing outreach on platforms like LinkedIn, is to have a strategy which says, I'm going to send an email, a message, LinkedIn message. I'm going to reach out to this person. Hey, Fred, thought it'd be great to connect. By the way, I've got this podcast. We talk about this. Looking at your bio, I think you might make a great guest. Is this something of interest to you? Yes or no? Question marks. So maybe it's simple like that. It only needs to be like a few lines. But have a strategy which says, right, if they don't respond within 7 days, I'm going to message them again. I don't just kind of go, well, they've not responded, therefore they're not interested. Because my experience is actually, I see it the email, I'll read it and I think, oh, I must do something with that, and then completely forget. And quite a lot of people do this now, it seems, because of the overwhelm.
Yeah.
And so it's not a bad thing to say, right, if I've not heard from you in 7 days, just to send a second message which says, hey, whatever your name is, just following up on this. I haven't heard, no problem if not. But yeah, just kind of curious, simple like that. It just brings it back to the top of their inbox.
Yeah.
In fact, we have 3 messages. And so again, if we've not heard from them in the week, I just send them a sort of do they call it the breakup email or the goodbye email or something like that? In essence, basically saying, listen, Simon, I appreciate you're probably getting a lot of messages. I've not heard from you. I just want you to know I'm going to stop messaging you after this, because obviously if you're not interested, that's totally fine. And I don't want to come across as, a freak and a spam dude. So I'm going to stop messaging you after this. But of course, anytime you want to reach out to me, if you want to come on the show, we'd love to have you. Just respond to this message.
Yeah.
And we've had people like 6 months later respond to that message. And so I think it leaves it on a good tone, because you're not being a total lunatic then.
Yeah. And the ball's in their court. They don't feel the pressure.
Exactly. And that you can sort of move on. You can close that and go and find somebody else. And because especially if you're starting out, you might not want more than, say, 50 messages open. Yeah. Right. So you're going to go and say, right, well, I'm going to start off by messaging 50 people. On the understanding that maybe 30% of them will say yes. So I'm going to get, 15 guests. Well, that's 15 weeks worth of content. But maybe 20 of them haven't responded yet. So do you go and do another sort of 20? Do you know what I mean? There's all this kind of thing. And I think if you've got 50 open at any one point in time, that's probably about right. And then you can add, if you get people saying yes or no, just add 10 a week or something like that. But once you've got it set up, it should be pretty straightforward. Just keep going. And I've always found with podcasting, it's always better to have a wait list than no list.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it does make it look a bit more popular, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah,
that keeps you ahead of things.
Yeah.
Because we've been on the back foot a few times, haven't we?
Well, we are with Push in some respects, aren't we, at the moment? Because when we first launched Push, we did this strategy. We reached out to 500 people on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it was.
And within inside of a few weeks, we had over a year's worth of guests booked in, didn't we?
We did.
And you're like, goodness me. So some of the podcasts we recorded didn't air for like 8 months. And I think in hindsight, that wasn't a clever thing, because, the guest sort of forgets who you are in some respects.
But at the same time, we didn't expect such an uptake either.
No, we wouldn't. I mean, it shows how full of faith we were.
Yeah. Because it took a while to get EP going, didn't it? E-commerce podcast.
Yeah, e-commerce podcast. Getting the guests for that was a bit more of a bit more involved. Yeah. A bit more of a hustle. Yeah. Whereas with Push, because we were expecting it to be like EP, everyone just was like, yeah, that's awesome. We're like, oh my goodness. So we turned the campaign off like after 3 weeks. Yeah, we'd got like over 18, was it 18 months? I can't remember. It was a lot of stuff.
Over a year. Yeah.
And so we've been publishing those episodes every week. I've not recorded a Push podcast for
quite some time.
Yeah. I mean, done the odd one here and there, but nothing major. And so now we've got to the stage where we're going, oh yeah, we should probably go and get some more guests. And to be fair, all I'm going to do is do what we're telling you to do. We're just going to go on LinkedIn, go and find some interesting people and say, listen, would you like to come on the show? Especially those interesting people are going to be guests that I think if we always talk about starting meaningful conversations with people that can have a sort of significant impact on your business. So we'll go and find those people and we'll get them on the show. I must remember to do that actually and get that back up and running. So what we didn't do, because it was so crazy at the start, was we didn't have this sort of weekly go and get more guests thing, which I think we'll do now.
Yeah, we need to.
Rather than this sort of boom bust scenario, which we find ourselves in with that particular podcast. Whereas with Podjunction, the guests that so far have been on the show are people that we know from the industry, aren't they?
Yeah.
So they were easy guests to get in a lot of ways. Because I go on a lot of people's podcasts. I get invited to go on a lot of people's podcasts. And I'm like, just come on the show, man. We'd love to talk to you. And it seems to work quite well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you go. That's the strategy for going and getting guests. Predominantly on LinkedIn, we've talked about. There are obviously other things and other ways that you can do this. I dare say we'll get into this more as we go along. But that was a great tip from Lee in terms of how to find guests. Hope you found this helpful and useful. There was some interesting stuff in there. Was there anything else from you?
No.
Is that it? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. So what we got next week?
Lee Houghton again.
Again?
This is a good one, though.
I
know it's like 4, But this is worth it. This is worth hanging on
No, it's just
for.
the way you said this is a good one though. Like this one we've just had.
This was also good. Thanks, Lee. Thanks, Lee, for all your valuable insight.
Yeah, the other three have been okay, but this one's going to be a good one next week, ladies and gentlemen. Lee's listening to this podcast. He's going to slap you. Metaphorically, of course. We do not condone violence in any way, and Lee is not a violent chap. So we got the 4th episode. So Lee is the first guest we've had on the show where we've done 4 episodes from his interview. That in
That's an
itself
honor.
tells you a lot about the coolness of Lee and the amazingness of Lee. So yes, if you haven't done so already, check out Lee's podcast. We'll of course link to Lee's podcast in the show notes. You can follow that link and listen to it. But yeah, been a treat, been fun. All right, we'll catch you next week. That's it from me. That's it from Sadaf. Bye for now.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode at Podjunction. If you've enjoyed the insights from this episode and want to hear the full conversation with today's special guest, don't forget to visit podjunction.com, where you'll find more information about how you can join Podjunction cohort. Whether you listened while on the go or in a quiet moment, thank you for letting us be a part of your day. Remember, every episode is a chance to gain insights and to transform your business with podcasting. So keep on tuning in, keep on learning, and until next time, happy podcasting.